Welcome everyone. It's really a big pleasure and honor to be here today to bring you in this trip, in this dream. My name is Stefano. I'm professor of robotics at this University of Twente, and I'm one of the advisors of Mars One. It was a great pleasure and honor that I have this task, and I was asked to lead the day. And I'm really looking forward to that. But first, before giving a big introduction, a short introduction, I want to tell you some things important for the day today. As you've seen, there is a Twitter account you can use. It's @onmars2013. During the whole day, maybe you have seen when you entered on your right side, there was a green screen where you have the opportunity to take a picture with the background of Mars. So as a memory of this day. There will be a workshop in the afternoon, but the workshop of Mars rovers will be outside on the right side. It's going on the whole day, for your information. Last thing is concerning lunch and coffee. Coffee is served for everybody the whole day. The lunch is only for the people that actually registered for the workshop. Said that, I would like to also to welcome, of course, everybody. I'm very happy that also Professor at Hoofd, Nobel Prize winner, is here with us today. It's really a big honor and pleasure. And yes, why not? So let me start before giving the floor to Bas. Everybody, of course, knows. Let me tell you something about the way I personally perceive this initiative and how I met Bas the first time. So I love technology, as probably most of the people that hear physics and technology, and I love dreams. And dreams are actually something that brought us to where we are today and will bring in the future to the next horizons. And we wouldn't be there if we wouldn't have been dreaming before. And this is what actually drive all the progress. And you need also people that have those dreams and push other people to dream with them. And dreams, of course, become reality most of the time. And I think that this is the way that will happen with Mars One. Maybe it will take longer, maybe there will be delay, we don't know, but we'll get there. And that's an important thing. What was very funny, before starting, is introducing how I got to know Bas and how I was involved in this fantastic initiative. It happens that the Bas brothers works here at this university, and I've been known him for many years. And then once he came to me and he says, Stefano, my brothers would like to talk to you. I said, that's great. I'd always like to meet you people. So what he wants to do? He wants to go to Mars. That was a few years ago. So when this was not known, and I said, okay. I said, that's good, but of course I was a bit skeptical. If somebody you do not know yet would go to Mars, they say, well, I was a bit skeptical, but I'm always, as I said, open for dreams, and I like meet people. So I said, sure, make an appointment, and I met Bas, and my attitude with respect to a bit of skepticism, of course, at the beginning, and believing in dreams, completely flipped, because Bas has a way of talking and enthusiasm in people that is completely the only recipe you need to make something like this actually happen. And by talking with him after, I think 1 hour or something, then I was convinced that this was going to happen. And of course there are a lot of issues about the one way, but I mean colonization and people that lived is exactly what we did already in the past, and this is just a new dimension in that respect. So without saying more, I would like to give the floor directly to let's say, the leader of this community, and he will tell us everything about this dream that one day will become reality, sooner than later, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a really kind introduction, Stefano. It's a pleasure to be here again. I studied here at Twente University. I've been here a few times this year because Twente University is the science and education partner of Mars One. So pleasure to be back, and I remember actually in this exact room during my introduction there was a performance of Bohemian Rhapsody, the song by Queen, by one person. I don't know if you can imagine that, but that's my memory for this room. So I'll try to do almost as good as that. Can you start my slides, please? So Mars One. I've started Mars One together with Arno Wilders. Many of you probably know a thing or two about it already. And our goal is to get humans to Mars as quickly as possible. And we started doing that a little bit differently than other organizations that are talking about missions to Mars. What other organizations often do is say, okay, what would we like to have on Mars? And picture actually the dream that Stefano was talking about, so big habitats and big greenhouses and a lot of things, pressurized rovers going all over the planet. And then you come up with a design that's really difficult. And what we did it the other way around. And we started by looking at what technology is available that looks like we might be able to use it for this mission. And we started actually designing our mission to Mars by taking all these existing puzzle pieces and puzzling together a human mission to Mars using only these bits and pieces. Next slide, please. So what do you need to go to Mars? You need to get off the Earth, you have to fly to Mars, you have to land on Mars, and you have to keep humans alive on Mars. And what we have done is made, especially because we are talking about permanent settlement, which means that you don't have to take care of the return journey. This means that the rockets, next slide please, the rockets that you need to get off the Earth that are currently existing are big enough to do this. And next slide, the systems we need to keep humans alive on the trip to Mars are roughly the same as what they use in the International Space Station. The astronauts stay there for 6 months. We will be underway for 7 months, so it's very comparable for instance, bone loss and muscle loss. And we don't have the problem of a return journey for the bone loss and the muscle loss because we're going to stay on Mars. And next please. Again, because of the permanent settlement, we don't need very big landing systems. And NASA is talking about landing 50 tons to the surface, and we are talking about 2.5 metric tons. So a factor of 20 less that we need to land on the surface compared to a mission where you need to return. And this is possible with the existing technology, so with Viking-based technology that was used in the 70s, we can land everything we need on Mars. And finally, we have the technology, next slide please, to keep people alive on Mars. It's actually a little bit easier to keep humans alive on Mars than it is to keep them alive in space because there's gravity, so your pumps work in the normal way. There's resources, there's nitrogen, there's water on Mars, so there is the technology to keep humans alive on Mars. And we've puzzled together our mission using only blocks of existing technology. And next slide, this block is one that we have eliminated from the start. Actually, Arno and I started Mars One 2.5 years ago, but I started thinking about this right here at this campus when I was about 20 years old, and immediately it was always my plan to exclude the return mission. Why would you want to go back? It's so inefficient, and there's so many people like myself who would like to go to Mars for the rest of their lives. And so why would you include the return mission? It's a holiday compared to living, which means that if you have a visit, you spend a lot more money, you have to develop all these technologies, and it's astronauts on Mars that only stay there for 1 year to work, while people that we send to Mars will work there the rest of their lives. So it's just so much more efficient. So next slide please. Mars, why? Why do we want to go to Mars? As Stefano said it already, it's the stuff of dreams. Is it even possible? Well, it is possible, and we're in Holland, and humans are actually not native to Holland. Humans are native to the west of Africa, and if you take away all our technology, our clothes, our houses, our transportation, our means of communication, if you take that all away, we couldn't survive here. I'm sure that most of us wouldn't survive one night here in Holland. This night, we wouldn't survive it, the November night in Holland, if we take all the technology that we have away. There's no caves here. I don't know if I can make a fire without without matches. That's all technology. And humans have always spread over the earth to where that technology just allows them to go. Not easily. Humans would go to places where it's just possible to survive, because then they were in a new place, they could develop new things, and there they developed the things that they needed to survive in a comfortable way, like we are doing now here in Holland. And it will be the same for Mars. When our first crew goes to Mars, it will be tough. And we're still investigating if there will be showers the first 2 years. We don't know yet. But you can survive without a shower. I mean, I was cycling in the west of China 2 years ago, and most people don't have a shower there. That's not essential for life, and there will be a lot of things that the first crews on Mars won't have that we consider very normal. But is that a reason not to go? Well, not for the people who want to go. And these are the explorers. So next slide, please. What does our plan look like? I'll go through it a little bit quickly because I think most of you already know most of the steps. Arno and I started Mars One in 2011, basically with a dream. And we started puzzling it together with existing puzzle pieces, but what we thought were existing puzzle pieces, with these system designs, we contacted aerospace companies from around the world, and we asked them, okay, we have a plan for a mission to Mars, and for the inflatable guys, we have this type of inflatable system in mind. Can you build it? And for the life support guys, we said, we have this in mind. Can you build that? And in this way, we contacted at least one aerospace supplier for every component that we need: the rockets, the rover, etc. And with the feedback that we got, we made sure that our design is feasible. Next slide, please. Then we took about a year to get that all together, to get a good advisory board, to make sure that people see not just a young team, but also people with good credentials that say, hey, we support this. And we launched our website in 2012, and finally our astronaut application process in 2013 in April. And we closed it last August, and we had more than 200,000 people who applied. And that was really, for us, so amazing that people from all over the world, from more than 140 different countries, actually apply for our mission to Mars. That's just very humbling and very exciting at the same time. Can I ask, who of you applied for the Mars One mission? Oh, that's really a lot of the audience. So usually I ask actually, who would go on a one-way trip to Mars? Is there anyone here who didn't apply yet, who would still be interested in going? Still a few, great. So, in many audiences where I speak, when I tell them that there's no return mission, it's ooh in the audience. You know, you hear some laughing and some scared people, and that's very logical because I believe that, as Stefano said, people have always explored for permanent settlement to never return. But when these explorers, when the people who went to Australia and to the US and to Canada, when they left Europe, there were probably a lot of people who said, are you crazy? Things are so well arranged here in Europe. Why would you go to Australia, where things are so far behind? There's less technology, living conditions are worse. But people want to do this. These are explorers, and you can't stop them. And that's also what I believe drives the people who apply for the Mars One mission. They know that they cannot return, but it doesn't matter. Also for me, I know that I'm not one of the qualified guys for the first crew. I just had a baby, so this is really not the right time for me to leave, but I still feel very strongly for going to Mars, and I hope to convince my girlfriend and go there one day. It will be very difficult, by the way, to convince my girlfriend, but I will keep trying. Next slide. So, in 2015 we will finish the crew selection, so we'll end up with about 6 groups of 4 people. By the way, we'll repeat the selection procedure regularly, so we'll keep adding more people after that. But the first groups of 4 will go full-time into training in 2015, and they will train in a copy of the Mars settlement here on Earth under Martian conditions. So we'll try to, hey Patrick, I didn't see you yet. We'll try to duplicate that as good as possible, and they will, on Mars of course we hope that everything will go well, and we'll design for that, and if things don't go well there will be backups, but when you guys are here in this structure on Earth, everything will go wrong. The worst things will go wrong, and we will test you to see can these crews, are they the right crews, do they stick together? It's very easy when things go wrong to start blaming each other. Do you stick together and do you solve the problems as well as possible? And that's going to be very exciting, and I think personally that the biggest challenge of Mars 1 is finding the first crew of 4 people that is up to the task. Imagine all of you must have been on a winter sports holiday. Imagine you're in your cabin with your 3 best friends and you get snowed in. And that's really funny, you call your boss, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I can't come. Yeah, it's not my problem, we're snowed in. And after 2 days you start to get a little bit annoyed with each other, and then after a week there's some fights going on, and imagine still being there after a month in a 200 square meter cabin with your 3 best friends, or after a year, or after 2 years. We're looking for a team that can be snowed in a reasonably sized cabin, but still a small cabin, for 2 years before the next crew of 4 people comes to Mars. And that's a really tough job. And then we need to train them for all the things for all the problems they have to solve, but that will be relatively easy compared to finding those people who can do this together. Next slide, please. So then we'll launch our first unmanned mission to Mars in 2016, and I can give you a little bit of news. We're going to announce something very exciting about that next month. So if you're not yet registered to our newsletter, make sure you do, because it's going to be very, very exciting news. And in this mission we'll demonstrate some of the technologies that we need for the human mission that haven't been demonstrated on Mars yet by NASA. Next slide, please. In 2018 we'll send a rover, and the rover is going to drive around on the surface and look for the best location for the settlement. We know, of course, already the whereabouts of the settlement, but the rover is going to really determine a good place with enough water in the soil, flat enough for construction, and make sure that this is the right place to go. Then, next slide, in 2020 we're going to send 6 cargo missions, 2 life support units, 2 living units, a spare rover and another supply unit. And the 2 rovers, next slide please, they will move all the equipment to the outpost location, they will deploy the solar panels, they will activate life support systems, and they will make sure that there's a habitable settlement waiting for the first crew. So there's water waiting, there's a breathable atmosphere, and next slide please. Only if this is determined, if all these systems are working nominally, then we will launch the Mars Transit Vehicle in 4 separate components to low Earth orbit, and when all these systems have been checked too, the first crew will depart to Mars in 2022. And then they will fly to Mars in 7 months' time. Next slide please. They will land on Mars, and I believe that this will be the most exciting moment in maybe human history, but at least in our lifetimes. And they will find a habitable settlement, but there will still be a lot of things to do. They will have to install the food growing equipment, they will have to deploy the rest of the solar panels, they will have to install the little hallways that you see between the modules. A lot of things to be done, and they will be very, very busy with just survival for a long time before they have time to do the things that they really came for, like exploration and really building a new society on a new planet. Next slide please. I've told you that they will have 2 life support units and 2 living units, which is of course for redundancy reasons. They'll also have a lot of spare parts, but what's very important to note is that the cargo for crews always goes 2 years ahead of the crews. We'll have the human settlement, the habitable settlement waiting for the first crew before they leave, and in the same way we will launch the hardware for crew number 2 with the first manned mission. They will be on a slightly slower trajectory, so they will land a few weeks later, but the first crew will have access to the technology of crew number 2. So when something breaks, they will have they will have four fully functional systems of each system, and they will have, of course, still the spare components to to fix things. Next slide, please. Then, when all these systems are still up and running 2 years later, when it's time for the second crew to leave, only then will the second crew leave. So that means if one of the life support systems has failed before the second crew leaves, then the second crew will actually, the second mission will be delayed 2 years and will send more hardware to Mars first. But assuming everything will be working well, they will leave in 2024 and they will leave in 2025, and in that way we'll have more missions every 2 years. And at first they will be missions of crews of 4, and we hope that when bigger rockets become available, that we'll be able to send bigger crews over time. Please. So I started with a picture of Mars, and but this all starts here on Earth. What we want to do is organize mankind's mission to Mars, not just NASA's mission or ESA's mission or China's mission, but mankind's mission to Mars. And in each crew we'll have 4 people, 2 men, 2 women, and they will always be from 4 different continents to make this really a mission where the whole world can feel involved. And if we go back to the Apollo landings, I think most people here in the audience didn't witness it, but there's probably a few people who did. And they remember that even if you're not American, the Apollo landings was really a party for the entire world. It was such a big feat, humans on the moon of our planet. It's something so big that everybody in the world celebrated it. But now imagine doing this as the whole world, humanity's mission to Mars, and 4 different continents being involved in what we do. Imagine what an exciting moment that will be when the first humans land. I think there has never been any moment like that. And that actually is also the way how we will finance it. Next slide, please. So we want to, there's 6 ways of financing that we use in Mars One. And on the top left you can see a crowd. And what we want to do is involve everybody in this mission. And so far we've been quite successful. We're already receiving donations, and we're selling merchandise like this in more than 80 different countries. So people from more than 80 different countries are already contributing to this. And Robert Zubrin, the president of the Mars Society, said not too long ago, if 1% of the people gave you $1 per month, it's less than a beer per month, you can finance your mission to Mars. So it's really not that much money. It's a lot of money, but there's also a lot of people on this planet. So involving people in what we do is one of our ways to finance it. That's the big group of people with the small amounts of money. There's also a small group of people on this planet with a very big amount of money. There's actually 200 people on Earth that can finance our first human mission from their personal wealth. So the cost of the first 4 people is about $6 billion US, and there's 200 people that can afford this, that can say, oh, you know what, let's do it. And they make it happen. And we're slowly networking our way into those communities. It's very difficult. There's a lot of people who ask them for money, obviously, because they have a lot. But our plan is so fantastic. It's a dream that you can make a dream come true. And imagine if you had $6 billion US. And just think about it a little bit. You buy a yacht, of course, 100 million. You buy a couple of houses around the world, another 100 million, but then you've still got 6 billion. So what are you going to do with your money? You can't spend $6 billion US. But what you can do is buy immortality. This is Carlos Slim. If Carlos Slim would finance our mission, we would call the first settlement on Mars Slim City. See, it sounds nice even. And or Bill Gates Gatesville. I've got all the names ready for all the 200 people. So if there's any billionaires in the room, please come to me up. The third way of financing is illustrated in the top right. It's a little bit difficult to see, but the astronaut is holding a camera. And Arno and I actually started Mars One when we found the revenue numbers for the Olympic Games. And the Olympic Games is also a big event. A lot of people in the world watch it. I think that this will be a lot bigger, and also the media companies that we talk to confirm this. And Arno and I started Mars One when we found that the Olympic Games in London had revenues of more than $4 billion US from sponsorships and broadcasting rights. $4 billion US for an event that lasts only 3 weeks. So that's more than $1 billion per month, just because the world is watching, because that's the only thing that the Olympic Games are selling. It's an audience that's watching. So the audience is important because we will ask the audience to make small contributions, but they're even more important because your eyeballs are worth money, and that's a very important way of financing this mission. So I already mentioned the sponsorships, they're kind of included in that, because if a lot of people are watching, then companies are interested to associate their name. And we have, of course, something very exciting. It's not for all companies. Some companies will find it too exciting, but there's a lot of companies that we're already in discussion with that are very exciting about the prospect of humans on Mars. Then, in the somewhat longer term, we plan to receive a lot of revenues from intellectual property. So when we close contracts with our suppliers, we make agreements on revenue share of future revenues of what that intellectual property might result in. So for instance, in recycling, you're going to have to recycle things very well on Mars because every molecule that you send there is very expensive. From solar panels, technologies, and of course from all the things that you didn't think about, because when they invented power drills for space, they really didn't think that it would be a $1 billion industry at that time. So finally, because we have a business model that can generate revenues, we're also talking to investors who are very interested to participate in Mars One, and we have already closed a successful investment round at the beginning of 2013. So 6 different ways in which we plan to finance this mission. I think this audience might be especially interested in 2 ways to participate in Mars One. Next slide, please. And that's the crowd there. You are part of our audience, so I hope that all of you go to our website and put in place the monthly donation. And the smallest monthly donation possible is $2 per month. It's less than a beer a month. And if enough people do this, this really helps us. Also because it shows to our broadcasters and to our sponsors that people are interested. So if you haven't done so yet, a lot of people already do it. Please do. And if you have a company and you're interested in being part of this mission, contact us for sponsorship opportunities. We have sponsorship opportunities for very small companies just to be involved. And we want this to be mankind's mission to Mars, so we want all of you to be involved. And we have sponsorship opportunities for very big companies, so if anyone from Coca-Cola or Samsung is in the audience, also please come to me after the talk. Next slide, please. That's all I wanted to tell about Mars One. I hope I've told you some new things, because a lot of people must have seen things already, but if you want to hear some new things, then please ask me questions that I haven't had before. Thank you very much.
It is clear why I got enthusiastic about the project you were about talking. Okay, so this time now, plenty of time for questions. It's basically the session where all your questions and can be posed to Bas. Who would like to start? Please.
Hi. First of all, I think your idea is awesome. It really is. And, I hope I get selected. Looking at your website and whatnot, regarding hydroponics is my question. First of all, I think hydroponics is a great way to go. You've got higher yield crops than dirt-grown crops and higher nutrition values. Having said that, it would seem obviously you're going to be turning your colonists into vegetarians. And I personally don't have a problem with that, but here's a thought that's a little more controversial in America probably than it is in Europe. But recently, earlier this year, 2 different scientific groups, one cloned hamburger, not the cow, but just the hamburger meat, and another one grew a ham in a petri dish. Very lean, very nutritious, nothing wrong with that. My thought is, have you considered possibly the option of training geneticists to go to Mars, to do that on Mars, and reintroduce meat into the colonist diet that way, as opposed to sending cows or things like that to Mars at some point?
Yeah, I certainly watched with interest when these stories were told. At the same time, even the cloned meat is very inefficient. So you first have to make plant-like nutrients and feed them to the cloned meat. So it's still a lot less efficient than plants. And actually, we don't plan for our colonists to be vegetarians. They'll have insects as part of the diet from the start. So I think that's officially not considered vegetarian. Here in the West, that always causes a little bit of a rumor, but don't forget that more than half of the people in the world eat insects on a daily basis. So just in the West, it's not very much accepted. I think that hydroponics is certainly also interesting. We're already talking to some possible partners for the greenhouse equipment. One of the problems with hydroponics is that it's a little bit more complex. There's more things that can break. So it's still a trade-off between the additional yields that you would have compared to the complexity. So I don't know if you're an expert on this, but we're talking, for instance, about, actually I don't know the English names. Is it ebb and, what's it, ebb and flow? Ebb and flow, yeah, ebb and flow systems. So where you put them underwater for some time and then reduce the water level. So it's a little bit low-tech hydroponics systems. Thanks.
Next question.
Hi, thanks for this. Very inspiring. Having had a lot of thought about it myself, the colony will be dependent on Earth for a long time. Have you given much thought to making the colony financially independent?
I think actually that the colony is kind of financially independent because all the revenue models that I showed you are for the colony. So the people are interested because people, especially when there's people on Mars, I think the excitement will be increased dramatically. So all the things that I showed you are there because of the colony, not because I have a pretty talk.
Sorry, I guess to expand on what I was saying is, even in the Apollo missions, the public interest did wane after a number of years, and that's going to be a risk to the Mars mission as well. So looking for alternate revenue streams will be important.
Yeah, we do that too, but I considered the same question that you had, and one of our ambassadors is Paul Reumer, the inventor of Big Brother, and we discussed our ideas for having revenues from the media with him. He was on the board of directors of Animal, so a very experienced media person, and he said if you can make this happen, people will watch it for 50 years. That was my first talk with him, and I drove back with Arno in the car, and we were really happy because we thought, hey, wow, we have the finances secured. And then I had exactly the same doubts that you just voiced. So I went back to him actually and asked him exactly the question you asked me. And he said there's a very, very big difference. Actually, a couple of differences. First of all, Apollo missions were something very abstract. They were test pilots, military people going to Mars, and you had no chance to be selected. In this case, people are going to Mars. It might be one of the guys here in the room, and people will be very excited about that. You can get to go to Mars, and it starts with just 4 and 8 and 12, once this is started, it will accelerate. So people will see this as an opportunity to go there, not just some astronauts that they do not really know performing some tasks for some space agency that they don't really know. So that will be a big difference. But also the fact that they don't return, the fact that they leave everything behind here on Earth and start a new life on Mars and really, I mean, they're committed. And that's going to make this so exciting and big. It's as if you were able to give a camera to the people who lived in West Africa on their journeys around the Earth. Imagine how long that would be interesting. And it's a big planet. So what Paul Reumer said to me is, if this happens, people will watch for 50 years to come. So, but besides that, we do have indeed a lot of other possible revenue streams that we have in mind. I can't tell them all because time is limited. One of them is the intellectual property, but we have, of course, some other things to finance this over the long term. Yeah, thanks.
There was a question there first. Yeah.
Have you ever considered, because it costs a lot and you built in a lot of redundancies and supply ships, to make it more feasible, have you ever considered maybe using the money that you have for resupply and next missions to just send a rocket and get the people back?
First of all, the amount of money that would be needed to get people back is really not just, it's not as if you buy a train ticket to Amsterdam and then you change your mind and you buy a train ticket back. You need to develop new rockets that can land the very big, that can launch from Earth the very big components you need for your return ship. You need to build a rocket that can launch from Mars. It's never been done before. It's going to be waiting there for a couple of years before the humans get there, because you want to make sure that it lands safely. And then it needs to be fueled and ready before the humans get there. How are you going to do that? It's so complex. It's way beyond anything that's ever been done before. And people compare it to the moon, but it's not comparable because it's a 7-month flight. There's going to be 4 people on board that will breathe, that will eat, that will poo. So there's so many more complexities when you make it a return mission. But that's actually not the main reason. For us, the risks are lower if you don't make it a return mission, because your people are going to have deteriorated bones, deteriorated muscles on Mars, fly another 7 months back to Earth, and then hit the Earth atmosphere. It's not something that we know how people can survive it. You get twice the radiation dose if you go back, which is getting to be on the level of dangerous. But maybe even most of all, we want permanent settlement. We don't want people to go on a holiday to Mars. We want people to settle there and to take the next giant leap for mankind, and not just a holiday.
And one more question?
We have to take care of time. If you don't mind, first I want to ask the others here behind and then you. Yes.
Yes, well, Bas, your dreams are contagious, and
Thanks.
your plan is pretty solid. But I'm really curious of what you are working on right now, concretely.
Yeah, there's 2 important things. We're preparing the first unmanned mission, which will the demonstration mission that will demonstrate some of the technologies. And we're working very hard on going through all the applications and preparing to start round 2 in 2014. So that's the 2 things that we spend most of our time on right now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Bas, thank you for the amazing project, Mars One. I am a Mars One applicant. My name is Kazimierz, and I am also a Mars Society member. I know personally Mr. Robert Zubrin. I am very happy that he became an advisor of this project. My candidacy for the Mars One project has raised great interest in Poland, and I was invited in the last 2 months 5 times to national Polish television.
Great.
And 5 times to radio station, and 6 or 10 times I was interviewed in newspapers.
Great. Well done.
I am very surprised why exploded so interest about this Mars One mission in the last 2 months, October, November. And common people, they are say positive, but also negative. But there's no problem. But problem is scientists in Poland. One scientist from Centrum Astronomiczne Mikołaja Kopernika in Warsaw, and one scientist from Centrum Badań Kosmicznych in Warsaw. Negative say we are crazy and cheaters. Crazy, okay, but cheaters.
Did they have any specific?
And another said it is not ethical to send people without return, and after landing, these 4 astronauts will die.
Could you
Yeah,
try to?
I'll give some comments. I think some other people will.
I want to address one more question. So, could you?
No, I think I have enough to answer. Yeah.
Okay.
So no,
What should I answer? I
yeah.
answered this man about this. You are scientist. Please invent a system that cause that we don't die. You have 10 years time.
Yeah. I'll answer. So
This is the word to Bas for the answer.
Should I
So-
answer the skeptical people?
yeah. No, that's a good question. And of course, I meet a lot of skeptical people. When scientists are skeptical, I always ask them, "What are you skeptical about?" Because if you say, "Yeah, it's impossible," yeah, you can't answer that question. But if they say it's difficult to land on Mars, or radiation, or food supply, then you can answer the question. So always ask them to be very specific. And I've never had a specific question that I couldn't answer. And so the radiation issues can be solved. We can land the systems that we need on Mars. So always make sure that they're very specific, and then only then can you answer the question. But the ethical question, that's a very good one. And for me, it's a very simple question actually. What's not ethical is to have someone do something that they don't want to do. So what Mars One's obligation is to make sure that people, all the stakeholders in Mars One, so not just the applicants, but also the sponsors and the general audience and the people who want to make make a TV show around what we do. All these people need to understand the risks, and there are risks. It's going to be dangerous. You can't go to Mars in a safe, 100% safe way. Even Boeings crash, and they've flown thousands of hours. So it will be dangerous, but we have to make it as safe as possible. We have to inform all the stakeholders about all the risks, and then the stakeholders have to decide if they want to participate or not. And if these experts think it's not ethical, then don't watch.
Last question, very short question. Yes?
My question is about if people are already living on Mars, would there be freedom for them to generate income from Earth for advertisements or interviews if they want to financially help their families back home? Or are they under contracts of some sort?
Yeah, they will be under a contract where they also get revenues, so they will get a salary. Actually, in Holland, I don't know where this will be, where these astronauts will be hired from, what state legal entity. But in Holland, it's actually not allowed to employ someone and not pay them. So they will be paid. They will be paid a normal competitive salary. So they will also be able to support their families if they leave people behind. If they generate revenues on Mars, that will be used for the Mars mission. So they won't be able to make their own revenues. Just like when you are employed by a certain company, you can't do that same job somewhere else. It's part of your job to make that money, and that will be used for future missions.
Just before going to the newspaper, just a comment about these billionaires. I think that why don't you just play against each other? So you just put on your website, the possibilities with a question mark, and then you just try to get to play with each other. Yeah. Because these guys, that's what probably are sensitive for. Thank you very much for the fantastic presentation. Thank you very much for your